Good morning. Here we go.
Hello there, this is Ian Nethercott, the host of the Auto Hub Show. I'd like to introduce you to Joel Benson on the other side, CEO of VidCalls. Joel will introduce details on how AI companies can gain an advantage over their competitors by connecting shoppers to live agents on two-way video calls. Take it away, Joel.
Thanks, Ian. Here's how it's going to work. Let's pretend that Ian's voice is the voice of AI and speaking with me, the consumer, who called in for information about buying a new Ford Mustang. At the right moment, Ian, the voice, is going to ask me if I, the shopper, would like to meet with one of Ford's agents on a live video call. If I agree, which I will, then Ian, the AI, is going to send me a text with a link like this, and watch what happens.
So here we go. Hello, this is Ian from ABC Ford. How can I help you today? Ford Mustang. Can you help me? Absolutely.
All righty. So that's a quick video and good morning. So we're going to go into the show right now. Here we go. And if we get people that are tardy, that's the way it goes. So here we go.
Life is about connection. Having a support system to lean on. And roads to endless possibility. At every turn, guiding the way, we are building the connections that move you.
One of the really nice things about Larry, one of the reasons that we brought him to our dealership is he's still very much aligned with our core values and with our brand, which is thoughtful and professional service. And because that alignment really worked out well, because he was so committed to the success of others, we really knew that he was the right person to spend time with our sales team, with our managers and each sales consultant. And we're just really thrilled to have a partnership with him. And so we thank him.
How do you adventure? Is it fast? Is it free? Is it clear? Is it rugged? Is it remote? For your next adventure, trust MotoClose for buying, selling, trading, and protecting all of your motorized assets. Powered by Disclose Dealership Management Dashboard, your all-in-one DMS, CRM, menu, lead gen, inventory, staff, client, and deal management solution. Disclose DMD, like a DMS, only better. Mention promo code AutoHub 2025 to get special pricing, including waive setup costs, no contract, and your first month's free.
Car dealers often underestimate the power of social media. Are you wondering why my face is plastered in your newsfeed? Are you a GM, dealer principal, or a manager at a car dealership wondering why you see me all the time on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and all over social media? Well, that didn't happen by chance. I target car dealers that are in-market shoppers for social media services, and I'm going to do the exact same thing for you so that you target in-market shoppers for your brand of customers that purchase your vehicles. During my Viato days, helping car dealers appraise and price cars, everyone was asking me, what do I do on social media? What do I do with Facebook, Instagram, TikTok? And this was back in 2016. So here we are 10 years later. I started a company, became an entrepreneur, and now I help car dealers. They either outsource their social media needs to us, or we have a training and education center where we can teach all of your employees how to do social media in-house. 90% of consumers actually follow a business on Instagram. The average adult sits on TikTok for 2 hours a day in the rabbit hole. To learn more information about it or to get a demo from one of my sales associates, click the link below. We would absolutely love to help you.
All right. Good morning. So let me just get set up here. So There was actually an interesting post. I don't know if you saw it. From actually my buddy, Mr. Carrillo, on AI and survival, which I thought was kind of pertinent. So I'm going to just share that real quick with everybody. Let me just see if I can scale it down a little bit. So basically, his controversial opinion was we all desire human connection and more. That means there are skills we need to brush up on: communication, active listening, unreasonable hospitality, critical thinking, and observe others' needs. So I thought that was pretty good, but I did post it on LinkedIn. So if you want to check it out, let me know. It's from Michael Carrillo from Flex Dealer, and of course, the OG and Auto podcast. He's been at it, I think, over 10 years now. So he's been at it a while. Anyway, so here we go. Looks like Larry's just joined us. So we're going to start with the first in today, which was Mr. Troy Glenn. So Troy, maybe I know you're in the AI side. Introduce yourself and talk about why you think AI is the answer in the automotive industry.
Thanks, Ian. Well, yeah, as everyone knows, my name is Troy Glenn. I work for CEP Global here in Canada, and representing all the CDK products, not just AI, but as far as the AI is concerned, I mean, let's face it, everybody's looking at it. Some people are adopting it because there's a fear that if they don't, they get left behind. But really, there's a massive benefit to looking at this AI, especially. My big things here is that when you're looking at a labor market that is tough to staff, and it allows you to basically have a 24-hour-a-day staff person that allows you to get more calls answered, miss less leads, and really just get more efficient in your business. There's, when you look at the number of lead generating things out there like Trader and Car Gurus and, all the other ones, Edmunds, Carfax, all of those lead gen things are generating leads. It's not the number of leads people have a problem with. It's really the quality of the leads and the ability to actually capture all of them. We think of how many get missed, and people are really spraying their market with inquiries, waiting to see who's going to get back to them first. And really, you're not going to get a human responding as fast as an AI can. So just capturing better leads faster and replacing or augmenting the staff that you don't have.
Thanks for that. And we have another AI company on, Mr. Derek. I'm going to jump out of order because Derek's, I know there was a post, I think it was, I saw it over the weekend on that you have a little bit of data on the AI side. Maybe you can share a little bit about yourself and Numa, but also sort of what you've learned on the AI side in the last little bit, since it's been a while, and why you think it's the answer.
Well, I don't know that it is the answer to everything, and I think it depends on the question, right?
Right.
That's really what we're here to talk about.
Yeah.
So, my name is Derek. I'm with Numa. We work with automotive dealerships all across the U.S. and Canada in regards to service, parts, body shop, and sales operations. And the cool thing about our company is that we are a true blend of Silicon Valley tech geniuses and automotive DNA. So when we first got into automotive, the founders from Silicon Valley realized, man, this is an incredible product market fit, and we can do a lot for automotive, but we don't know anything about the business. And so I got to be lucky that I was the first guy that they came and tapped on the shoulder, and I rolled over here. I used to be the COO of Ziegler, was my last role, worked for Grant Cardone, the Cardone Group for 18 years before that, but been around the business for a little bit, and I love it. And I really think that if you look at AI specifically and you think about where we're headed as an industry, to Troy's point, efficiencies in staffing is probably the most critical thing that we can focus on, right? The three most expensive things are people, advertising, inventory, right? When we look at it, what we're spending money on, and people being the number one cause of dissatisfaction at dealerships. And so from our standpoint, our goal isn't really to reduce headcount, it's to make your employees more efficient. And you've heard me say this, Ian, when I speak at events and in front of big groups, but we're kind of the anti-AI company. I know that sounds weird hearing, but our focus is human first. And we want to make sure that our AI is empowering the dealership employees so that they can fulfill that role, right? We want to make them more powerful, more efficient, able to do more with less, and ultimately, kind of to go back to where Troy was going with this, but we want to drive efficiencies to a point where it creates employees that want to be there, right? We don't want to get that turnover. We want to eliminate that. We want to give them skill sets and the tools that they need to be successful. You know, there's all kinds of stats out that talk about efficiencies and stuff with AI, but the reality is people and process win, and tools are the goal, or not the goal, but tools are the enabler that help them to win. So we really have focused on building out AI that fits into existing dealership business processes instead of creating new processes. I know from my relationship with CDK, we've got over 380 CDK clients. One of the things that always amazes me is how little of CDK the dealership actually engages on a daily basis, right? They get very good at using 20, 30, 40% CDK, but they're not using the full suite. And so we always talk about how do we build a process, or how do we build technology that fits into the process that the dealership has today. And so that's a lot of what it is.
Fantastic. So Larry, I know you're the high-tech guru, and I know you do some programming in the evenings and on weekends. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you're hearing from dealers on the AI side, and why you think AI is the answer to some of the challenges from a non-technical point of view, just in case you don't know, Larry.
Absolutely. Well, what's interesting about AI is that it's expedient in some ways. It can take a conversation, it can take something and break it down for you and make it a little easier. And as the first two gentlemen on this program, and I agree with both of them, as long as it doesn't become a crutch, as long as it doesn't become, well, we'll just throw everything on AI. It's interesting. When I started my training and recruiting company, I realized the catch-all of every dealership was throw them to the BDC manager. The GM would hire me, I'd get a big check, he'd say, yeah, go meet the BDC manager. It was like, he was everything. And that can be dangerous, because if you're too reliant on any one thing, you miss things and you get disconnected. It's probably why almost every dealership has a disconnect between variable and fixed operations. So like anything else, as long as it's a tool, as long as it's used to augment what people are capable of doing, I think it's fabulous. But like everything else, Plato and Socrates had it right, moderation in all things. As long as it's used to help people and not go forward. The only thing I disagree with the first two gentlemen was all this discussion about how hard it is to find people. That's just because dealers aren't calling me enough, because I can easily find every position at a dealership. That thus ends my commercial.
Fair enough. So Peter, I know we were talking a little bit before the show about how your wife has some challenges with the speed of AI. And I think that's a little bit of a user error, but maybe you can talk a little bit about why you think AI is the answer.
So, first of all, I agree with pretty much everything that is being said. AI should not be considered as artificial intelligence. It should be considered as augmented intelligence. And where Derek was coming into it is it's allowing us to enter into utilization of full suites of products, where the average person, as we know, probably uses 10% of their cell phone capability, and but they'll spend $1,500 on an Apple iPhone without even questioning it, but they'll only use 10% of it. So wouldn't it be more sensible to look at something a little bit smaller? No, they want what they want, and that's what we're entering into in this marketplace with dealerships. They want this because they've heard that a system like Numa will not drop a call. It will answer every single call. Now, the challenge with that is going back to the staffing. The staffing becomes, hey, if Numa's going to answer every single call for me, I don't have to answer my calls. And that's a challenge, and I've heard that across the network. So it's understanding the process, and we talk about people, process, technology, and that we have to have the right people, the right processes, and the right technology. And then once we get the right technology in place, we move that backwards through the wave pool, and now we develop the process to the technology to train and coach the people. And then once the people got it, then they can look at the solutions and say, hey, can we tweak this to make it better? And that's where AI is going to truly behave as we want it in this industry, to maximize our efficiencies and our experiences that we can provide our customers to elevate our retention level.
Thanks for that.
Just to add on to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Ian, one sec.
Yeah.
So just to go back to what Larry and Peter both said, and this is, I've said this 100 times, and I tell my dealers who want to buy AI the same thing. You could capture 100% of the leads, but if you don't have a good handle on how the human beings on the other end of the line are actually handling those inbound calls, you're gonna piss the customers off even more. So it really boils down to the training piece that both those guys talked about. If you don't have the human piece nailed, it doesn't matter how many leads you have. In fact, you're probably not handling all the leads you have coming in now. If you ramp that up to 10 times the leads or 4 times the leads or whatever the number is, well, now you're just going to fail at 4 or 10 times the pace. So you really desperately need to have that sales process nailed and that human being interaction piece nailed. Because again, to the guy's point, if you rely on the technology to do all the hard work, by the time the customer walks over the threshold into the store and the experience is completely separated and disjointed, they're going to turn around and walk right back.
Yeah. So maybe we can ask Derek that question. Where do you start? I mean, obviously, if I had a 50% call drop rate or a 50% lack of response, and now I'm at 100%, how do you get dealers prepared for that? And where do they start? Like if they're saying, hey, I want to fix this problem, to Troy's point, you know, I'm creating another problem. So how do I get ahead of that? A new problem.
Accountability. So one of the things, and I think Larry touched on this just a second, and Troy's point, and Peter was hitting on it as well. One of the challenges with any tool, I don't care what it is if the team decides to let the tool exist in and of itself, right? It doesn't matter what it is. You could be lead handling, it could be service appointments, it could be status updates, it could be anything. If they leave it to exist in and of itself, we are going to fail. Because what's human nature? Path of least resistance, right? And so if an AI is engaging a customer, they think, oh, that lead's followed up on. I don't need to do anything. Wrong. Absolutely 100% wrong. And so the key thing that you want to look for in an AI partner is accountability. And so in any conversation, whether it's sales, service, parts, body shop, does not matter where it is, any conversation that AI is involved in, there needs to be a clock and it needs to be assigned to a human to follow up on that conversation within a certain amount of time. Our benchmark is 15 minutes. And so, nominally, if you look at service advisors across the country in US and Canada, our average service advisor, if they miss a phone call, their response time is 13 minutes and 30 seconds. The reason is we're putting it in front of their face multiple ways, and their boss is getting tagged in at 15 minutes on an escalation that they haven't communicated back to their customer. And so measurement, accountability, all those things are what drives where we're going. And that's what supports back to what Peter's point was. If you just let the AI engage the customer, you're destined to fail because that ends up becoming a bad experience. We are not, as a society, ready for full-on AI engagement without human interaction. I'm gonna say human first.
Yeah.
We want to make your people more efficient. We want to hold them accountable, and we want to drive the conversation using the AI and be there when your people can't, but we want to get a human tagged in immediately, right?
Yeah.
So there's some thoughts there. You just asked me, where are we going with AI?
Yeah. Where do you want to start? Like if I'm a dealer and I've got, a multitude of challenges,
All right.
how do I choose the challenge?
One of the things that's interesting is, does the dealer want to start his AI journey on his own, or does he want to start it with a partner, right? And so I say to dealers, this is one of the things that we talk about. You need to define your use case. Like legitimately, this isn't an if come maybe. You need to say, what am I trying to use AI for? And then you need to, if you're using an AI partner, you need to say, what is my partner going to deliver? What are the KPIs and how do I hold them accountable? Because that's where this becomes very interesting. Unfortunately, if you look at all of the what's it called where they do their quarterly thing with all these public companies and they give
P&L review or quarterly projection. Yeah.
Quarterly, whatever it is. Google has their big thing. Right? 95% of all of the Fortune 500 included AI initiatives in their quarterly review last quarter. 95%. Okay, everybody's talking about AI. Everybody is selling AI as a function now inside of their product. The problem is, a lot of times, those AIs are operating as a black box. Input goes in, output comes out. Nobody knows what happens in the middle. And at that point in time, you're in a problem. You're in a pickle. So that's the reason why we need to have this engagement. And you need to decide what you want to achieve with AI, establish that use case, and then move forward from there. There is a ton of stuff that you can do today with generative AI. Like for service managers, it is so easy to go to Gemini or Llama or ChatGPT, craft a measured prompt, basically something along the lines of, hey, you're an expert in automotive service. You're helping me design a service training plan for selling brakes to a customer after their MPI scored in the red. And it will actually craft you what you need to do, and it'll bring that back. I tell dealers all the time, if you want to just use this for training, you can actually create a weekly training session based upon what you're trying to sell that month, as far as your services in your shop, and you can create weekly training. Like that's a simple use case, right? You can do that without a partner. But then once you bring a partner in, then you need to figure out a lot more defined about how you're getting to where you want to go. If, again, we're all talking about process and people, right? If your AI does not support your process and people, it's not the right AI. If it's just existing in its own little world, it's not the right AI. You need to have human first engagement, and it needs to be continually holding your people accountable to the right end. So I think that if I'm a dealer, I'm going to look at it and say, what's the number one place? There is something that I think is really important to consider. There's two parts to the statement. One is that Moore's law in computing has held true for the last 40 plus years.
Yeah.
Moore's law simply states that every 18 months, CPU or processing power for a computer doubles. Okay, that's held true since the first CPU came out. AI, the equivalent of Moore's law is 7 months.
Yeah.
AI computing power has been doubling every 7 months. The reason why I say this is because what that means to us, the vendors, the software providers, is that our capabilities are basically doubling every 7 months, right? And so you want to look at what's the use case, where am I going, and then what's my early adopter advantage?
Right.
There's a lot of business pundits, not just in automotive, but business pundits that are out there that are saying, if you do not have an AI native business in 18 to 24 months, you're going to be left behind. Right?
Yeah.
And so we talk about what's the early adopter, what's the early mover advantage. And a lot of these dealerships that have jumped on AI over the last 4 years are starting to see that payback at a significant level. So there you go.
Yep. That's a lot.
Eric, I think you're 100% right. It's all about accountability. When I had my dealership, instead of giving everybody a written description of what I thought their job should be, I asked them to write what they thought their job should be. And you wouldn't believe the difference between what I expected of them and what they thought was expected of them. If we can hold people accountable in every sense, it's going to be better. But I think we're all in agreement that if you separate these two things, you're dead. Listen, I don't know how much you look like you spend a lot of time with everything because you look smart. If you're in a dealership, you see scenarios that make you want to jump out of a window if you're an owner. I've done it at my store, and I see it all over the country. The manager or the GM or the GSM or the floor manager will say, what about Mr. Smith? Who? Your customer. The guy you had 3 hours. Oh, yeah. So if you're taking people that aren't really held accountable in a good way, that doesn't mean screaming and hollering, you're dead. I still see dealerships all over the country, and it's great for me, Derek, because I'm a trainer and recruiter. Their ineptitude is making me do better and better. But I still don't see people doing save a deal meetings. I don't see people doing walkarounds. Myself and Peter We spend a lot of time talking to different dealers about fixed stops. I years ago, smart dealers said you gotta let them drive the car before I'll give you numbers to get them excited, because I still don't see mandatory service walks. So if we're untrained on the basics, if we really don't have an idea of what's expected of us, then how can we possibly not fall into the trap of saying, "Oh, this is great! I hit a button, it did everything for me." Very helpful and very dangerous at the same time. It's kind of like a yin yang thing.
Thanks, Matt, Larry. So
That's funny. I tell people all the time, you can build a house with a hammer and a handsaw. It might not look as pretty, and it might take you a really long time to do it. But when you got a laser guided chop saw and an air nailer, you can build that house a whole lot more efficiently and a lot more faster. But also, let me tell you, if you make a mistake with a chop saw versus a handsaw, you cut off your wrist. Right? And so technology at any level has inherent dangers if you don't apply it correctly. Right? That's your point.
100%. So, Troy, I mean, obviously you're picking an area to fix at a dealership. We know this is kind of fraught with peril just because there's so many things that need to be fixed sometimes. You know, where do you start? Like what do you do there?
Well, so, I mean, the easy answer that I thought of when you and I were talking about this before is, well, whatever department's bleeding out the most. But I'm going to write that answer out because I've been listening to these guys and I've rethought this in real time.
Yeah.
It's just like Derek said, you need to have a strategy. If you don't actually have a game plan on how you want to tackle these problem-solving tools or using problem-solving tools, then you're just throwing band-aids up against her, almost like a kid trying to plug the holes in the dikes that doesn't leak and another hole's going to appear. We see all the time when we go into dealerships, they're like, well, we have a problem, our systems don't work. And then we find out they've got like 16 disconnected tools trying to do something because they got a tool to help with service, but then they needed a tool to help with appointments online. Then they needed another appointment widget to help put into their BDC, which then resulted in 6 fixed ops tools to do the job of one tool or one person, but with no proper strategy. They didn't know where they were going. And then on top of that, you got 17 tools in sales trying to generate leads or answer calls or what have you. The strategy is first. If without the strategy, the whole thing falls apart. Good friend of mine is an IT director at a packaging company, really a box factory, one of the biggest in North America. But he actually ran a tool recently that shows how many AI products are running in his system at the moment. This is North America law. And so he sort of jokingly asked around the table, like, how many do you think? And I said 70. Someone else said 22, and someone else said 40. And I thought that number was absurd. But what it ended up being was 200.
Wow.
So between ChatGPT, Copilot, note takers, all these different tools that everyone was using that had some AI component attached to it, over 200 instances of AI running in their computers, in their network today. So those people all took their own initiatives, or maybe their own departments took initiatives, but they're clearly not connected with each other because the IT guy had no idea. So when you're trying to keep a healthy ecosystem going without a strategy, you're going to end up with 200 tools that are confounded with each other, that end up with wrong threads like meters byte, that are inefficient and give bad data and bad results.
Fantastic.
Well, I'd like to add to that. And one of the things that I've always talked about is obviously cutting back expenses and increasing efficiency. And along with that is reducing turnover. And in doing that, I looked at the technician side of it. We talked about tools. If you went to a technician and they had a Snap-on account or a Mac Tools account, they're just going out to the truck and buying tools every single week and bringing it in and putting it on their account and burying themselves deeper and deeper into debt. Well, you look at Sonic. Sonic went out and they went to all the manufacturers and said, okay, let's look at the 3 levels of utilization. You have your apprentice, you have your B-Tech, and then you have your master tech. What tools do they need to work on all your cars at that level. And they said, oh, they need these specific tools. Great. So they built their toolboxes. And they said, this is what your toolbox needs. And then your toolbox needs this for BTEC, and your toolbox needs for your master's.
Yeah.
So we know exactly what the build out for every single tech is for every single dealership. We need to do that with technology for dealerships. We have to build out the tech stacks for dealerships and say, here, we don't need to cross over on this, this, and this, and this, because there's so much crossover out there, and that's an inefficiency of expense. And the problem is, when and Troy and Eric, you're in dealerships all the time. When was the last time a dealership did a tech audit? An actual true tech audit. They don't do it. They just look at it as, is it working? Then we don't have to worry about it. If it's not working, let's add to it.
But
that's the mindset.
But there's more to it than that. I mean, as Troy said, 200 tools. It's not just the technology that they're adding or that they have. It's the embedded nature of that technology with these features anyway. So whether it's a website browser, whether it's a word processor, whether it's any kind of software, a lot of manufacturers of this software are just adding this technology. So the question becomes, and this is, I guess, an octopus type question, at what point do you start looking at it and going, hey, I've got AI everywhere. Is that helping me or not? So I think that's a great point. But we had Joel add the call, and I know Joel's real technical. What do you think in terms of AI and productivity? Joel, what's your thought?
Well, as you know, and I apologize for coming in late because I have my own problem with my computer. So just let me get my bearings, ask somebody else a question, and I'm going to come back to you. Just got to finish this.
No problem. So we're looking at AI, and we're looking at Endgame because everyone seems to like quoting Terminator, or they're talking about, oh, the AI is coming from a manufacturer's job. There's actually a company here locally that they built these robots for distribution networks, and there's a bunch of hair on that because they're going bankrupt. But it was an idea with moving robots around, which I'm sure Amazon, everyone else is on. But when you look at the end game, in your opinion, of AI, like where is it going from here? And I know Derek was talking a little bit about 8 months out, and I'm very familiar, having been in the computer industry for a long time, way back. What do you think 24 months looks like? Like, what do you think? Derek, go ahead.
Yeah, well, if you're asking me,
yeah,
there's a couple of things that I see happening. One is, if you've seen any of our websites or any of the stuff that we have at events, we're labeling ourselves an AI native dealership, right? And so I think really, if you look at where we're at and what's headed in the next 18 to 24 months, we're looking at full engagement with the technicians and with the advisors, built-in processing with the warranty claims, special order parts integration. Like, all of this stuff just becomes more and more efficient, which frees up the humans at the dealership to do what they're supposed to do, which is what? We build with customers, right? And so I think that the biggest thing that I see, and that I think all of us are working towards, is one, I think, to Troy's point about the 200 different AI things that are running across, not an automotive dealership, but across this platform that they were looking at, is that there is going to be a couple of approved AI partners, because unfortunately there's some stuff that's happening with these open AIs that's bad. That's
right.
Just it's challenging security wise. Troy and I both have been through security audits with major groups. We both work with all of the, and I'm saying it's just in CDK, but we both work with all the public groups. And when you go through their security audit, it's not looking just to see, are you putting PII in there?
Yeah.
It's looking at all of the aspects of what's happening with AI, because look, that's a leaky sieve. That's a hole in the bucket if you're not doing it properly. So I think that we're going to see some consolidation. We're going to see some integration into further aspects. And I think we're going to see a continued improvement. Our friends over at OpenAI are supposedly going to release ChatGPT 5.0 sometime this summer.
Yep.
Sam has said publicly that's going to be the last generation of ChatGPT. Now, when you think about what he's actually saying, that means that the next level is AGI, artificial general intelligence. And so that's scary. Now we're talking indistinguishable from a human as far as interaction goes. And there's this idea inside of Silicon Valley about AI, they call it the uncanny valley, which is the more realistic an AI becomes, the more difficult the conversation is with a human, because the human doesn't know when you're talking about a human or an AI, and they feel uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
It's a very uncomfortable conversation. And so there's a lot of stuff that's associated with this. And so the customer-facing AI is going to have to make a tremendous leap. Society is going to have to move forward with being very comfortable with having that conversation with AI, and really the technology internally to make each individual's job easier is where the true power is going to come. But it has to be consolidated, to everybody's point, into 1 or 2 or 3 products instead of 27. So I think that's really the big opportunities that we're all going to see in AI over the next 18 to 24 months.
Interesting. So, Mr. Troy, I know you're a mad AI genius, and I know you can predict the future. What's your thought on?
I love that.
What's your oracle ball tell you about 24 months in?
I'm gonna say, can somebody please tell my boss because I could use a bump. What's the first part about it is, Derek brought something interesting about the outputs and the efficiency that come. But I think another byproduct of that is a genuine BS detector. Now, when you go in and you're a general manager, dealer principal, and you're talking to your sales folks, how many cars do you need to sell this month? The new car manager goes 110. Used car manager goes 175. Say, well, last month you sold half that number. What makes you think you're going to do this time? I've got a good feeling about it. Also, parts obsolescence, tech efficiencies, lead conversion percentages. Managers, like salespeople like me, are salespeople. We're selling up our management line all the time about how great we're doing or what we're going to accomplish. Or we're overselling how doom and gloom it is because I want to buy a tool.
Right.
And AI is going to have, as your system grows, and that every 7 months comes through, well, the data that you're feeding into your system is just going to get better and better and better as time goes on. Like we have 8 billion ROs, 2.8 petabytes of data in our training data. But when you look at what an individual dealership is, the longer they have an AI tool, the better their decision-making process, the better that their outputs are going to be as far as what their data is seeing. And forecasting, budgeting, sales numbers, you're going to have a very good predictive model that based on what you're doing today, this is what your 13-month goal is going to look like, unless you make a market change or you invest in something else or you change your advertising strategy, buying strategy, or what have you. So I think there's going to be a real sharpening of data that comes out of it, which is great. But this is my sort of fun little prediction. I come from the hotel business. I spent 22 years working in around hotels. My wife still works in technology with hotels, and she's got even more experience than I do. And I don't know if you all remember, but back in the day, you could go onto a website and book a hotel room at the hotel, and that was huge. And then what happened was these aggregators came out, where you could go to hotels.com or Kayak or something like that, and it would search every hotel website and every travel agency database, all the airline GPS systems, and create an itinerary for you in a couple minutes. Well, let's take that to the next level in automotive. You're going to have an AI tool that's going to reach out to all the other AI tools, and it's going to do a scrape of all the AI tools. The speed at which 2 AI tools can fall together of those two that realize that AI is talking to each other and it speeds up exponentially. Imagine you're someone looking for a vehicle. You input all of your prompts to say, this is what I want, roughly this price, this mileage, everything else. I want the best price for it with a reasonable payment at the best interest rate. My budget is X monthly, and my trade is roughly a value of $13,500. Go. And all these AIs will start talking to each other, and you're going to get a list of here are 6 dealerships that meet your criteria, ranked in order, based on Google reviews on search quality, and sorted by geography of your house. And I think there's going to be a cottage industry of AI aggregators that are going to be speaking to other AI. And it's not just automotive, it could be anything. But much like the hotel aggregators started to make that part more efficient, just imagine what happened. That was done 25 years ago without AI. Imagine how great it's going to be now. And so as the prompts get more sophisticated and the outputs get better and you can start to parse out the garbage data that's out there, I think you're going to start to see a real removing of the veil, so to speak, where all of these dealerships are either going to get exposed for padding their MSRPs, or they're not going to be able to bury their poor Google reviews anymore. And those AI results are going to sort, and the cream's going to rise to the top.
Yeah, I think that's right on the money. When you look at the Google listings or paid search, and if you could dig into that and not only get the paid search but get the real results and not have to go through it all, that takes it from 5 visits to 1 to 2 to possibly 1, and it's done. The heavy lifting's done for you.
Yeah, tell the AI to sort out any results that are sponsored.
It's like Yelp for dealers.
I want
for you.
Exactly. but truly, like, you're going to be able to take all of the, and I say games, they're our customers, and I love them dearly. But you're going to take out some of those old, tried and true, and maybe a little weather-beaten marketing strategies, and they're going to become irrelevant.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Go ahead, Peter. You had a thought?
Yeah. So Todd Smith was on a call with us.
Yeah, he's going to be on the call today, but he's in Europe somewhere or something, or Australia. Go ahead.
So in doing that, Todd was on a call with us about 3 weeks ago. And as we were on the call, he opened up his screen, put it into chat, and just started putting in prompts about buying a car.
Yep.
And chat brought it right down to a penny perfect price at a dealership that had great reviews, and basically did exactly what you said, Troy, and he did it within 5 prompts to get to what he wanted. He said, okay, I'm going to search for X car, and I'm going to do it this way, and put 5 prompts in, and Jack came back and said, okay, and then it came back and said, well, you have to go to Toyota of Littleton, Colorado, and because they have that exact car that you're wanting, and they're willing to do it at this price.
Yeah, I think he did it live on the show as well. We did have a feed where he went through it, and if you don't know Todd, he's pretty genius level at AI, but it was interesting because he actually had a conversation with AI to pick the dealer, not only to pick the dealer in the vehicle, but to even help AI help them select the vehicle based on needs, which was a little bit crazy. And it did it very quickly. So it was in, I think, literally seconds. It had already narrowed it down. And I think that's really kind of the future of sort of finding the right dealer. I mean, we did have our buddy Matt on talking about the future of search and stuff last week. But, I think when you combine those two things together, it will become indispensable for customers looking for a dealership. And to Derek's point, I mean, obviously, if you're not on that short list and the AI doesn't know you exist, you kind of are out of the mix. So I think that's really what it comes down to.
Well, there's a couple of things here, and to just append Peter's note here, it is already happening. People are already able to do this, but not if you're not sophisticated, don't know how to write efficient prompts, then it takes a little longer to get there. You still might get it, but it's going to be mature.
Yep.
I think that there's going to become technology aggregators where they're going to be give your customers are very similar to what they're telling your customers a car salesperson's head. And once you put in that survey, it's going to spit it all out. It's going to do it for you until everyone gets to the most sophisticated prompts, or the technology gets to that API level where you speak into a microphone. It's just going to talk to you all the time. That's the thing I think I like the best about all of this is you said it, that the AI doesn't know you exist. The AI absolutely does know you exist. And it's going to expose people that are providing the right value. And so it's not so much that you have to do things to become visible to AI. You have to just be a good operator. And the good operators are going to succeed. If you're, trying to layer BS on top of people or have hidden things in your system or think you can get away with something, you just cannot. And that's really sort of the piece that I want to correct for leaving with this. The AI absolutely knows you exist and it's judged you accordingly.
Oh yeah, I mean when you looked at that demo, and if you're not, I will put the description below for that episode. But it was a little bit mind-boggling watching him do this, and I would argue it did it better than some people selling cars for a living. So it was a little bit crazy. But more importantly, to Derek's point earlier, I mean that's version 3. Like version 5 is going to be that much better. But also, if you're not already using it and making mistakes, because you're going to make some, AI is not perfect, neither are people. If you're not making those mistakes early on, you're just behind the 8 ball. And I always compare it to either these devices that people used to walk into car dealers with and do it in front of the salesman wasn't aware of it, or years before, it was, oh, I don't need a website, I got the yellow pages. So, at the end of the day, really, it's about, how are you ahead of those competitors? But also, you got to give yourself time to learn what to do, what not to do, and maybe make a few errors. What's your feeling, Larry? You haven't been saying much. Shocking.
Well, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. I believe that AI will get faster and faster and make it easier. But think about it. Let's go back to the root. What happens if your used car manager or used car director isn't keeping the right vehicles, isn't providing the right information so that AI can pull it, right? We've all seen dealers that have ads, for cars, and there's snow on the car and it's July. And what happens if the salespeople aren't trained and welcoming? Because I'm a car salesman. I was a dealership owner. I don't like to make light or hurt where I come from. But man, have I seen a lot of salespeople that instead of selling a car, find every way not to sell a car. Instead of solving problems, they invent them. So once again, you still need a functioning dealership. You need cars that make sense. Because I think you'll agree, Derek, if AI pulls up and your car is priced incredibly wrong, the miles aren't right, the description is crappy, AI is not going to call you up and say, you got the wrong picture. So that has to be smooth as glass. And then the salespeople have to be right. So it's interesting, and I think you'll all agree with me. AI is improving at an unbelievably fast pace. And I speak on behalf of myself and Joel Benson, who have trouble using our own garage door opener. But the scary part is salespeople didn't progress, they regress. Because during COVID, dealers made a fortune. The only time I regretted not having my dealership was during COVID. The money came in. But instead of saying, gosh, look at the surplus profit we have, what a fabulous time. And I just paid a guy on sale $5,000 to pull him in and say, hey, let's prepare ourselves. No, they didn't train. They just figured that the gravy train's never going to stop. So the only interesting or scary thing is, if AI keeps getting better and better, and salespeople don't, or they regress, or they lean too much on it, you could really have a problem. So once again, we're back to where I started. Don't mean to bore anybody. If it can be used to augment strong processes in a dealership, it's going to be unbelievable. And Derek, Troy, Peter, it's not like we haven't seen predictive analysis. Derek, you don't know me. I'm a full-time musician as well as a full-time recruiter and trainer. And man, I'm always hunting for blues records, old rock and roll stuff. So by now I know. They're not going to show me Britney Spears. They're going to show me Muddy Waters. They know. So why the hell, when there's this much more money on the table, would these AI companies? So my thing is, I believe they're going to get incredibly fast, incredibly good. My goal is to try to keep dealerships to keep up. Because I think right now, I know Peter will agree with me, they're not even close. They're falling short. Correct, Peter?
Yep, absolutely. The challenge that we find, and it's again, I quote to a conversation I had with David Spizak, is that it's the 80-20 rule. 80% of the dealerships out there are still dinosaurs. They're still in traditional thinking. They're still doing dealer math rather than looking at metrics. They're still doing a whole bunch of things that they were taught by the generation before them and the generation before them. They remain in that platform. So where they look at what's going forward, and they live in a situation of fear of making the wrong move, fear of making a mistake, fear of the challenge of what it might bring to them, and so they sit paralyzed by analysis, and it's a challenge to them. So they need to get into a situation where they can go out and be educated either by a consultant or by someone that they can trust in an expert role like Derek or Troy or where they have been in a positioning that they can be deemed a trusted advisor rather than like a sales consultant or brand consultant. They're in a trusted advisory role where they're going to get that help. Otherwise, they're going to be as Mr. Spizek and I both concurred, they're going to be the dinosaur that doesn't know that the meteor has hit the Earth, and they have to adapt quickly, or they're going to be extinct.
Thanks for that, Derek. We're running out of time. Maybe you could give us your final thoughts on AI, and then I'm going to go to Joel next. So go ahead, Derek.
I just think that AI, as it stands today, is designed to make your people more efficient, but it has to drive accountability as well. We see consistently 300% increase in outgoing phone calls from BDCs that are using AI properly. We see, 50% reduction in cost. Time over time, we get brought to 20 groups, and this is the big thing. So if we can get a cost savings and an efficiency output because we're designed around the business process and we work with the people instead of replacing them, I think that's what you need to look for in a partner. And I think that today is the time to move forward, because if you start today, you're going to have an 18-month advantage on the guys that are going to come in once everybody says, oh, I can't run my dealership without AI. And it's just going to keep evolving. So a lot of thoughts. I enjoyed this panel. You guys are a great group of people. Thank you, Ian.
Yep, no worries. So just in case you didn't hear that, was 300%, am I right?
Yeah, consistently we see a 300% increase in output. So Norm Reeves Auto Group, one of our large groups that we have all 16 of their stores, they went from being able to make 3,000 outbound phone calls per month for scheduling service calls to being able to make over 9,000 calls per month just after 90 days with using Numa. Why? Because we made the people more efficient with the way that we're handling appointments, incoming calls, status updates, the whole thing. Right? BD stands for business development. It doesn't stand for phone answering. So what we're trying to do is drive that efficiencies. And there's a case study for that on our website if you want to see how they did it. There's some pretty cool documentation there.
Yeah, so if you're looking for ROI, that's some numbers. Joel, you had some final thoughts.
Yeah, if AI had eyes, it would take care of everything, but it doesn't. When a shopper wants to shop for a car or shop for insurance policy or shop for clothing or whatever they want to shop for, if AI can't look into that customer in their eyes and get an idea of what the shopper is really looking for, then that's what our video call system is all about. But it's all about we can't just take away the salesperson in the dealership and think that AI is going to sell every damn car that we've got in the lot, because that's just not going to happen, because that takes away the shopping mode. And it's fun to shop. It's fun to talk about, for a woman to call a dealership and talk about different cars and is this car right for me? Is that car right for me? We can't just be totally automatic. I love AI. I think it's phenomenal, but let's keep our eye open to see if AI has eyes on the consumer. And the other thing is, because AI doesn't have eyes, they can't see the consumer. So if the consumer wants to show them the car that they want to trade in, they have to talk about it or get on a phone and do a FaceTime and show what it is. But let's just keep our eyes open. That's all I'm saying about AI.
Thanks for that. Larry, final thoughts on technology.
About the eyes. Joe was talking about the eyes. I think it's the math. The one thing AI can't do is it can't smile, it can't empathize, it can't put its arm around you and say, yeah, I know that happened to me, so I know exactly how you feel. So that's why as the AI improves, we got to work on improving our salespeople, making them better listeners and more empathetic. That's all.
Thanks very much. And if you didn't see the David Carrillo post that I put at the beginning of the show, I will be posting on LinkedIn. He basically said as much. And to talk about Derek's thought on numbers, I mean, obviously, if you have a lot more outreach and you have a lot more opportunity, those little details at the mid to bottom funnel become more important. So remember, when you're adding AI to the mix, you need to look at those other moving pieces. It's not just the AI is going to fix it. It's how that, adds to a structure. Thanks for the time today, guys, and to share your thoughts on AI. And have yourself a great week. Watch for the recording if you didn't see it live. And have yourself a great day. Bye for now.